So one thing to make note of is notice that your sides are lowercase letters. Your angles are uppercase letters. So if you need to write that down, anything like that, your sides are lowercase, your angles are uppercase. So what this is saying is if side B is larger than side A, then the angle B is going to be larger than angle A. That's all that's saying. Okay? And then also notice that, for example, side A is across from or opposite of angle A. Right? So if side B is larger than side A, angle B is going to be larger than angle A. The same thing is true going the other way. If two angles of a triangle are not congruent, then the longer side lies opposite the larger angle. So if angle B is larger than angle A, then side B is going to be larger than side B is going to be larger than side A. That's all that's saying. And then the big one, triangle inequality theorem. Triangle inequality theorem says the sum of the lengths of any two sides of a triangle is greater than the length of the third side. If that's the case, the triangle is a triangle. So sometimes you can be given numbers, and those numbers, the sides don't work to create a triangle. Okay? So what this is saying is, say for example, I have three sides of a triangle, 15 and 16. If I take my two smaller sides and add them together, it needs to be greater than that larger side. If that's the case, it's a triangle. If that's not the case, it's not. So what's 15 plus 16 real fast? 31? Is 31 greater than 30? Yes. So that would be a triangle. Okay? It must be greater than, though. So for example, what's 15 plus 15?
30.
30? Is 30 greater than 30? No. Okay, so that does not work. It has to be more than that largest side. Okay, so that's all triangle inequality theorem says. If I take my two shorter sides and add them together, it needs to be greater than, that sum needs to be greater than that largest side. Okay, that's all that's saying. Alright, so let's put this into context. Alright, so for this first example, I am listing the angles from least to greatest. Okay, and I'm given the side lengths. Okay, what my theorem said was, for example, the smallest side is going to be opposite the smallest angle. Okay, so remember that sides we're going to list by lowercase letters. Okay, so for example, this side right here is opposite angle N, so it's going to be named lowercase n because it's opposite that side or that angle. Okay, that means this side PN. What is that going to be named using one lowercase letter? Side PN. M. Good. Lowercase m. And then obviously that means this one must be P. Good. Okay. So I'm given the sides. I want to list the angles from least to greatest. Okay. So the smallest side corresponds with the smallest angle. The smallest side is going to be across from the smallest angle. So which angle is going to be the smallest? N. Okay. Side N is the smallest, that's 10. So that means angle N is the smallest. Okay. What side is next? Or what angle, I'm sorry?
M.
M. Good, because that side is 16. And then, of course, that leaves me with P. Eddie, put it away. Okay, so the smallest side is side N. That means angle N is also going to be the smallest. Okay, you can probably tell that from the picture as well, that N looks smaller than M and P. But I want you to have a reason for saying that, not just, oh, that one looks smaller. Actually have a reason behind it. Alright, now for number 2, I need to list the sides from least to greatest. Okay, and I'm given the angles, but also notice I'm only given 2 of the angles. How can I figure out that third angle? Add the angles and subtract from 180. Good. Okay, so you can do that for me real quick. 50 plus 62, and then subtract that from 180. 68, good. So 50 plus 62 is 112. 180 minus 112 is 68 degrees. Good. Because all the angles inside a triangle should add up to 180 degrees. Alright, let's go and label our sides real quick using one letter. Okay? So if this angle is 50 degrees, angle L, name the side using two letters, that's going to be side L. KM. And side across from it. Good. KM. Okay, that is across from angle L. Alright, this side right here, that can be M or K. K, good. And then that means this side is M. Good. Alright, so remember the smaller angle corresponds with the smaller side. So which side, K, L, or M, is going to be the smallest? L. Okay, that side is 50 degrees, that's the smallest angle, that means side L is going to be the smallest side. Which one's next?
M.
M, and then K. Good. Easy peasy.
What about the line lever? It seems to be similar to the line.
No, okay, so good question. Since we're only using one letter, like with triangles, since we're only using one letter, and since that's the lowercase letter, that's fine with them. Good question. So remember, your lowercase letters are your sides, your uppercase letters are your angles. Very good question. Alright. For 3 and 4, we need to decide, so this is our triangle inequality theorem. Which of the following steps could be the sides of a triangle? So what I need to do is I need to take my two smaller sides, add them up. If that sum is greater than the largest side, then it's a triangle. If it's not, then it's not a triangle. Okay? So for step 1, which side needs to be on the other side of the inequality? Which side's the largest? 40. So I need to add 18 and 19 together. Alright, what is 18 plus 19? 37. Is 37 greater than 40? No. So because of that, this thing does not create a triangle. 37 is not greater than 40, so because of that, no triangle. Alright, very quickly, I want you to do the next one. So take your two smaller sides, add them together. If it's greater than the larger, it's a triangle. Is this thing a triangle?
Yeah.
Yes. What's 33 plus 37? 70. Is 70 greater than 66? Yes. So it is a triangle. Good. Alright. And then I want you to do this last one real fast. You're asked which of the following set of numbers could not represent a triangle. So you're looking for which one triangle inequality theorem fails. So take the two smaller sides, add them together, you're looking for which one fails. Alright, which one fails? B. Good. 4 plus 9 is 13. 13 is not greater than 14. Answer choice B fails. Good. That's it for triangle inequality here. Are there any questions? Alright. Then let's do Pythagorean theorem now. Alright, so I told my students last semester is if you leave this class with anything, I can't remember anything else. Pythagorean theorem. Okay? You walk out of this class with nothing else. At least know your Pythagorean theorem. Okay? Hopefully you walk out with more than that. But if you don't, at least know Pythagorean theorem. Okay? And we talked about Pythagorean theorem a little bit when we talked about distance, but now we're just going to go into a little bit more detail with it. Alright? So Pythagorean theorem. if a triangle is a right triangle, so it must be a right triangle, it does not work for any other triangle, then the sum of the squares of the legs is equal to the square of the length of the hypotenuse. Okay? You need to remember that for a right triangle, my hypotenuse is always the side across from the right angle. Okay? And then the other two sides are your legs. Alright? So hypotenuse is always across from the right angle. Your hypotenuse is always your largest side. Okay? So also note that your hypotenuse is always C. Okay? A and B can be whatever leg. Your hypotenuse, though, is always C. Alright, so if a triangle is a right triangle, then the two legs squared, add them together, should equal the hypotenuse squared. The opposite is also true. If the two legs squared equals the hypotenuse squared, then you can say the triangle is a right triangle. Okay, that's called your converse of your Pythagorean theorem. It's essentially the opposite. You're going the other way. You're going in the back door. So if the sum of the squares equals the length of the hypotenuse squared, then you can say the triangle is a right triangle. Okay? So let's do a few problems to start us off. Alright, I'm asked to find the missing sides. Okay? Am I missing a leg or the hypotenuse? Hypotenuse, good. What is the letter for hypotenuse?
C.
C, good. Okay? I can say 15 is A and 12 is B. Okay? Use Pythagorean theorem. A squared plus B squared equals C squared. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to plug everything in to that formula. Okay, put it away. Please. Thank you. Okay, so plug everything in. Oh, just stick with me. This is not a long lesson.
What?
Sonny, just put your phone away and stick with me.
Oh.
Oh, yeah. This isn't a long lesson. Alright, plug everything into this formula. Okay, so A is 15. So 15 squared plus B 12 squared equals what I'm looking for, C squared. The goal is to get C all by itself. And remember, when you're squaring something, you're essentially just multiplying it by itself. Okay? So what is 15 squared? 25. Plus, we should know what 12 squared is. 144 equals C squared. Okay? What is 225 plus 144? 369. Okay? I need C all by itself. Does anyone remember the opposite of squaring something? Square root. Good, square root. So I need to square root both sides. Got it? On your homework, some of them are going to ask you to leave your answer as a decimal. Some of them are going to ask you to simplify the square root. So we need to remember how to do that. Okay? So we need to ask ourselves, is 369 a perfect square? Spoiler alert, it's not. Then you need to ask yourself, what is the largest perfect square that goes into 369? So first of all, you need to remember your perfect squares. 1, 4, 9, 16, 25, so on and so forth. So I want you to take a couple seconds and start going through those, see what the largest one that goes into 369 is. Okay, so 369 divided by 4, 369 divided by 9, so on and so forth. See which one is the largest that goes into it. Yes. 3, 3, 9. Yes. 9 times what, Sam?
41.
Good, 41. So square root of 9 times the square root of 41 is C. Okay? What is the square root of 9? 3. And the square root of 41, I don't think I can do anything with it. So that is my answer. Okay? If it asks for a decimal, you can type in your calculator 3 times the square root of 41, and then hit those arrows right above enter, and it should give it to you as a decimal. So go ahead and do that for me. Figure out what this is as a decimal, and round it to 2 decimal places, please. So hit those arrows right above enter. What is this as a decimal? 2 decimal. 19.21. There you go. 19.21. So depending on what your homework asked, your answer would either be 3 times the square root of 41 or approximately 19.21. All right. Let's do 2 together, and then I'll have you do 3 with those around you. All right, number 2. Am I missing a leg or a hypotenuse? A leg. Okay, my hypotenuse is what? 10. Okay, my hypotenuse is 10. Alright, so that means I'm missing a leg. Alright, so that means the letter missing is either A or B. Which one do you want it to be? A. Let's just choose A. Okay, so A is missing. That means B is 7. And my hypotenuse is 10. Alright, I'll get into Pythagorean theorem. A squared plus B squared equals C squared. Alright, plug in everything you got. A is what I'm missing. B is 7. And C is 10. Alright, what is 7 squared? Good. And 10 squared? 100. Alright, I need to get A squared all by itself. So how do I get this 49 over here? Subtract. Good. So when I subtract, what's A squared equal to? 51. And then lastly, to get A all alone, I need to square root both sides. Okay, 51 I can tell you right now is not a perfect square. But go double check for me that there isn't any perfect squares that go into 51. So 4, 9, 16, 25. Make sure none of those go into it. It doesn't work. I don't think so. Okay, so if this were asking you to leave it with square roots, your answer would be square root of 51. There's nothing else I can do with that. Alright, just for practice, go ahead and convert it to a decimal for me and 2 decimal places. Type in square root of 51 and then hit those arrows right above enter. Alright, 2 decimal places. What do we get? 7.14. So just be careful when you're doing your delta math. If it says to leave it in radical form and you put 7.14, it's going to mark it wrong. Okay? So just be extra careful with your instructions. Alright, I want you to try number 3 with those around you. I will give you a hint that you need to make sure that your answer that you get for C squared is a perfect square or not. So to do that, simply take that value, square root it, see if it comes out evenly or not. I'll give you a hint, it should. So take like 2 minutes to do number 3.
Oh, I got my calculator. This is what that, and some of five.
Second, X squared. So hit the green button and then hit X squared. So am I missing, I probably should have already got this. Am I missing A, B, or C? C. Okay, good. Give me one more minute. Whoever's playing music.
Broken. No.
Oh, it's killing me. Alright, what we get for our answer? Say again. 41. Good, 41. Okay. So, 9 and 40, they can either be A or B, it doesn't matter. So you have 9 squared plus 40 squared equals my hypotenuse squared. 9 squared is 81, 40 squared is 1600, and that equals C squared. 81 plus 1600 is 1681. And if you just go straight to your calculator, remember the first thing is always check and see, is it a perfect square? You're not going to know off the top of your head that's a perfect square. I sure did it. Okay? But if you type in the square root of 1681, it comes out evenly to 41. But I was given units here, okay? So my answer needs to be 41 centimeters. Alright, the other two problems weren't given units, we didn't need to bother with it. But because I was given centimeters, my answer needs to be in centimeters. Okay. All good here? Alright. Let's keep moving along then. Okay. These next two problems look kind of complicated, but let me assure you they are not. You are essentially just doing Pythagorean theorem twice. Alright, so for this first problem, okay, I'm going to have to find the missing side lengths. Alright, notice that with this triangle right here, I know two of the sides, I'm missing a third. Pythagorean theorem. Just go ahead and figure it out. And the question is, am I missing a leg or a hypotenuse for that shaded triangle? I'm missing a leg or a hypotenuse. You see it now? And for this shaded triangle, I'm missing this side, which is across from the right angle, which is the hypotenuse. Okay, for the other triangle, it'll be a leg. Or that piece is a leg for the other triangle. Okay, do we see now that that's a hypotenuse? Yes. Okay, if you say it's the wrong thing, it's going to mess everything up. Okay, so that's a hypotenuse, so that's a C. Okay, I'm just going to call it Y. That way it's not X. Okay, so I can use Pythagorean theorem to figure that out. A squared plus B squared equals C squared. Okay, I'm missing C, which is my hypotenuse. I'm going to call it Y. So the others can be A and B, 4 squared plus 8 squared. Alright, don't get too far ahead of me here, and I'll show you why in just a second. Okay, 4 squared is 16 plus 8 squared,
64.
64. What is 16 plus 64? What is it? 80. Okay. And then when I square root both sides, for now, I'm leaving it a square root of 80. And you will see why in just a second. Don't simplify that. Okay? If you do, it's not a big deal. But leave it as that for now. So this piece right here that I just found is square root of 80. Alright, so I have that piece. Now I can use it in the 7 to figure out this side of the triangle. Okay, so for this other triangle, that x, is it a leg or a hypotenuse? Hypotenuse. Alright, so once again, a squared plus b squared equals c squared, but c is going to be x. So that's going to be equal to x squared. Okay? So now let's plug everything in. One of my legs is the square root of 80. You will see why I'm doing this in just a second. And then my other leg is 7. Alright, the reason I did not simplify it is because squares and square roots are inverse operations. They're opposites. So essentially what's going to happen here with that square root of 80 is the square and the square root are going to cancel each other out. Okay? And I want you to prove that to yourself real fast using your calculator. So what I want you to do real quick, open a parentheses. Okay, open a parentheses, type in square root of 80, and then close that parentheses. And then hit x squared and enter. So open a parentheses, type in square root of 80, close the parentheses, and then hit enter. What do you get?
Error.
Oh, you should not get an error. There you go. You should not get an error. There you go. Okay. Okay, I forgot to mention that. Be sure you are outside the radical, the square root before you close your parentheses. So, delete that. Be sure you're outside the square. There you go. Now hit enter. Okay, so open a parentheses, square root of 80. Be sure you're outside the square root when you close the parentheses. Then square it, and what do you get? 80. 80. Okay, that's what you're supposed to get, 80. Okay, so what's happening here is the square and the square root are canceling each other out. And I'm left with 80. Okay, that's why I decided not to simplify it. If you would have gone ahead and simplified it and then squared all of that, you still should get 80. Okay, so if you forget to do that, it's not the end of the world. Alright, and then now we can solve this like we normally would. What is 7 squared?
49.
49 equals x squared. 80 plus 49.
129.
129. And then lastly, square root both sides, and just for simplicity, give this to me as a decimal with, or give this to me as a number with 2 decimal places. Don't worry about the radical. 11.36, perfect. So x, my final answer is 11.36. Not too bad. Just Pythagorean theorem twice. Alright, let's keep moving along. Alright, this next one, still find the missing pieces. Alright, so for this bottom triangle right here, I've got 2 of the sides. I can easily figure out the third using Pythagorean theorem. Am I missing, with this bottom triangle, Am I missing a leg or a hypotenuse?
Like,
Leg or hypotenuse? This bottom triangle. Am I missing a leg or a hypotenuse? Hypotenuse. Hypotenuse. Okay, opposite the right angle. I'm just, for simplicity's sake, once again, I'm going to call it Y. You can call it whatever you want. I don't care. Okay, so that means I'm missing my C term. So that means A and B could be 3 or 4. Doesn't matter. Okay? So I'll just say 3 squared plus 4 squared equals my hypotenuse, Y squared. And I want you really quickly to find Y. Okay? Hopefully we can do this by now. I want you to find Y. Alright, so what's Y? 5. We get 5? Good. Okay, so Y is 5. So this side right here is 5. So 9 plus 16. So 25. And 25 is a perfect square. So Y is 5. Good. Alright. Now, I need to figure out what this dotted line is. But how's that going to help me when I only have one piece of each time? Do I have more than one piece? Say it. What? Okay. Elaborate. And what type of shape is this? Rectangle. So what does that mean this side is also 7? Okay, we haven't talked about rectangles, but we should know basic rectangle properties. That means this side is 7, and what's this side going to be? 5. Okay, so no matter what triangle you use, you've got 2 of the pieces, you're just missing the third piece. Is that a leg or a hypotenuse? Hypotenuse. So that's going to be your C. I'm just going to call it X. Okay, so 7 squared plus 5 squared equals X squared. I want you to find X very quickly, and I want you to round to 2 decimal places. Alright, rounded to 2 decimal places. What is X? 8.60. Good deal. Okay, so 49 plus 25 equals X squared. I think that's 74. when you round up to do 2 decimal places, x is approximately 8.60. Very good. Questions, comments, concerns about Pythagorean theorem? Alright, these last 2 problems deal with the converse of the Pythagorean theorem, so let me remind you what that is. You're essentially going in the back door. You're going the opposite way. Okay? So if 2 legs squared added together equals the hypotenuse squared, then you can say the triangle is a right triangle. Okay? So if a squared plus b squared equals c squared, then the triangle is a right triangle. Because a squared plus b squared equals c squared only works for right triangles. Okay? I will give you a hint that last semester, and probably again, there will be a problem very similar to this on your test. And lots of students last semester said, oh, I don't see an angle marked as a right triangle, or as a right angle, therefore it's not a right angle. It's not what I'm asking you, okay? I'm asking you to use the Pythagorean theorem to decide, is this a right triangle or not? So if this is on your test, please don't say, well, I don't see a right angle mark, so no, this isn't a right angle. That's not what I'm asking you, okay? I think we're a little smarter than that, okay? So I'm asking you, does a squared plus b squared equal c squared? Does the left-hand side equal the right-hand side? That's all I'm asking you, okay? First of all, we need to determine which one of these sides is my hypotenuse. Start what? Yeah, why? Yeah, it's the longest side. Good. The largest side is always my hypotenuse. So that's my C. Okay, so 37 is going to be my C. So that means 35 and 12 can be my A and B. Okay, so you need to ask yourself, does 35 squared plus 12 squared equal 37 squared? If it does, it's a right triangle. If it doesn't, it's not a right triangle. It's just another triangle. What is 35 squared? Good. 1225. We know what 12 squared is. That's 144. What is 37 squared?
1369.
Good. 1369. And then finally, you need to ask yourself, does 1225 plus 144 equal 1369? Yes. Okay. The left-hand side equals the right-hand side. So, yes, this is a right triangle. Okay? Then it asks you to explain your answer. Alright, so you can say something, what did I say? Yeah, okay? So we use the converse of the Pythagorean theorem, essentially the opposite of the Pythagorean theorem. So we can say by the converse, and I'm going to abbreviate a lot, by the converse of the Pythagorean theorem, since a squared plus b squared equals c squared, triangle MNO is, and I'll scroll back down in just a second, triangle MNO is a right triangle. So, hint, hint, if you were asked a problem very similar to this on your test, and you were asked to explain your answer, that's along the lines of what I want. Because a squared plus b squared equals c squared, this is a right triangle. Alright? Once you're done with that, I would like you very quickly to do this last one on your own. And then we'll be done. So figure out which one's your hypotenuse. Ask yourself, does the left-hand side of the Pythagorean theorem equal the right-hand side? If it does, it's a right triangle. If it does not, it's not a right triangle. Is that a right triangle? No. Okay. Which length is my hypotenuse? ST, the 41, good. So 40 squared plus 11 squared, that needs to equal 41 squared. Alright, so that's 1600 plus 121. 41 squared is 1681. And what is a squared plus b squared? What does that equal? 1721. That clearly does not equal 1681. So no non-right triangle. And if you were asked to explain, you would say since a squared plus b squared does not equal c squared, there's no way this can be a right triangle. It can be a triangle, but it just can't be a right triangle. Okay? And that is all. Are there any questions? And we're not going to start anything new tomorrow. Just with the amount of people absent, I don't think there's any point. And like I told you at the beginning of your class, your Delta math is a little longer than normal just because it's covering today and tomorrow. Okay, so you have plenty of time. You will need to scratch. For triangle inequality theorem, I'm not going to require it because at this point I hope you can add. But for Pythagorean theorem, I will need to scratch. Okay? If you forgot to turn in your scratch from 3.5, I'll still take it. I did put in your grade, so if for some reason you did it, but you only got 5 or a 6 out of 10, it's because you didn't show me your scratch. So if you happen to still have it, I'll take it. Okay? Otherwise, go ahead and start that. Tomorrow you'll continue working on your homework, any missing work. I might have a little activity or something for you to do, but nothing crazy. Okay? And then Monday we'll start fresh.